Think about the person who took up the most space in your mind, not the one who treated you best, the one you couldn't stop thinking about. There's a reason it was them, and it has almost nothing to do with how much you loved them and everything to do with what they reminded your nervous system of. This video is about 3 patterns that feel exactly like love: anxiety, obsession, emotional dependency. None of them are love, but all of them will convince you they are, until someone shows you the difference. Not because these feelings aren't real, they are completely real, but because confusing them with love is one of the most common reasons people stay in relationships that slowly diminish them, or leave relationships that were actually good. Understanding the difference doesn't make you cynical. It makes you honest about what you actually need. Let's start with anxiety. Here's something behavioral science has documented consistently. The nervous system cannot reliably tell the difference between excitement and anxiety. Both feel like heightened arousal, racing heart, shallow breath, heightened attention toward one specific person. In the early stages of attachment, the brain releases cortisol, the same stress hormone released during genuine threat. Researchers call this limerence. It's involuntary, it's physiological, and it feels overwhelmingly like falling in love. But here's where it gets complicated. When the person is consistent, when they show up, when they're present, when there's no uncertainty, the cortisol drops, the intensity fades, and many people interpret that fade as falling out of love. They weren't falling out of love. Their nervous system was finally regulating. The calm felt wrong because the anxiety had felt like passion. So they chase the anxiety. They choose relationships that keep them activated, not because those relationships are better, but because activated feels alive and calm feels like nothing. If you've ever left a stable relationship because it felt boring, or stayed in an unstable one because it felt electric, this is the mechanism behind that. The electricity wasn't connection, it was dysregulation, and dysregulation can become deeply addictive. There's a specific kind of intensity that gets mistaken for deep connection. You think about them constantly, not warmly, urgently. You analyze their words, you replay conversations, you build an entire relationship inside your own head that may have very little to do with who they actually are. That's not intimacy. That's a projection loop. Genuine connection requires 2 real people with flaws, contradictions, and limitations actually seeing each other. Obsession requires only one person and an idealized image of another. The painful part is that obsession often feels more intense than real love, because the version of the person you've built in your mind is uninterrupted. They never disappoint you. They never have bad days. They're always almost there. Almost is the operative word. Behavioral research suggests that the obsessive loop is frequently activated not by who someone is, but by their unavailability. The brain treats uncertainty as an unsolved problem, and unsolved problems demand attention. This is why you can obsess over someone you barely know, someone who has shown you very little, someone who, if you're being honest, you've never actually been fully present with. Because what you're attached to isn't them, it's the version of them you've constructed from the gaps they've left. Real connection is quieter than that. It doesn't demand all your mental bandwidth. It doesn't live primarily in your imagination. It shows up imperfectly, consistently, actually. If the most alive you feel in a relationship is when you're alone thinking about it, that's worth sitting with. The third pattern is the most subtle and the most socially accepted. Emotional dependency looks like devotion. It looks like prioritizing someone. It looks like needing them the way you need oxygen. And that need can feel like the deepest love you've ever experienced. But love and need aren't the same thing. Love can exist without consuming the other person's identity. Need, when it becomes dependency, cannot. Attachment theory describes emotional dependency as a pattern where one person's sense of self becomes contingent on the presence, approval, or emotional state of another. It often develops when early relational experiences were inconsistent, when love felt conditional, or when connection required performance. The result is an adult who doesn't know how to exist in a relationship without disappearing into it, who regulates their own emotions primarily through other people, who feels fundamentally incomplete when alone, not because they lack value, but because they were never taught how to provide that for themselves. The hardest thing about emotional dependency is that the person on the other end often feels loved, intensely, deeply loved, until the weight of being someone's entire emotional infrastructure becomes impossible to carry. Dependency isn't a flaw in character. It's a learned strategy for survival in an environment where connection felt fragile. The strategy made sense once. What this video is asking you to consider is whether it still does. Anxiety, obsession, dependency, none of these mean you haven't loved. They mean you've been doing your best to connect with the tools you had available. But here's what they also mean. If intensity is the only way you know how to recognize love, then calm, consistent, genuinely present love might feel like nothing at all. And that's not a small thing to realize. The goal isn't to stop feeling deeply. It's to learn to tell the difference between a feeling that's moving you towards someone and a feeling that's using someone to move away from something inside yourself. That distinction, quiet as it is, changes everything. If any part of this video felt uncomfortably familiar, that's not a sign something is wrong with you. It's a sign you've been paying attention.